I'm going to show you a technique at the end of this video which will really help you to answer all the questions in a very specific way, which interviewers like to hear it that way.
I'm playing with fire. I'm getting so close. Got so much desire. So I am never letting go.
What's up, you guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's freezing outside. I just came back from an interview, and in this video I'm gonna tell you what the interview was for. I mean, it was for a part-time job, but what that job is for, and this job is a pretty important one on campus, and I'm gonna tell you about some of the questions which I got asked and some questions which I was not asked, but they might be asked, you know. So I just wanted to let you know about like a part-time job interview, give some tips if possible, and let you know about the type of questions that can come so you can prepare for them beforehand. This job was for RA, for to be a residential assistant. What it basically means is you're like a leader of your dormitory and you're taking care of the residents, making sure that the rules are being followed, making checks, you know, like alcohol checks, and like just making sure that everything is clean. If there are any issues with the dormitory or roommate conflicts or something like that. So it's basically like a leader and you're taking care of the dormitory. But why this role is super important is, especially in TCU, is because more than around 45 to 50% of TCU students live on campus. So more than 4,000 students live on campus, and the housing department, the housing and residential life department, is a really big department on campus with a lot of employees, and they encourage students to take these RA positions to make sure students have that one-on-one interaction with all the residents, and the residents have someone to talk to if they have any issues while they are living in the dorms. Now, I don't know about other schools, but in TCU, RA position is pretty competitive. I think it's also competitive in a lot of other universities. This time, around 250 students applied, and what I heard is around 20 are going to be selected. I don't know the exact numbers, don't quote me on that, but these are just, and I'm not allowed to get the exact numbers, but these are just like things which I hear from people. Now, it's a pretty important job because a lot of students are living, students have issues sometimes, you need to know how to cure them. If there's an emergency in the hall, you need to know how to react and everything. So there's like a trainings which happen if you get selected. Talking about my today's interview, so this was my second day at the interview. My first day was last week where we had a group interview, and today was the main interview of 3.5 hours. The first 1.5 hours was in a group. We were doing some group activities to see how, and they evaluate us while we are working in our groups. They evaluate us like how we are like working in teams, if we are good at working in teams or not, and just trying to like see our skills and like our people skills to work with other people, because in this position you're also going to work with many other students and staff members. Now, important thing to realize is every job has a certain set of skills which they require. If you apply to Google as a computer programmer, you need to know programming, right? You need to know a little bit of communication and everything, but then the main thing is programming. In this particular job, the main thing you need is like talking to people, communication, you know, like helping them, empathizing with them, like when they need help in their difficult situation, if they're feeling homesick or something like that. And I think I'm pretty good at like working with students and helping them to get adjusted in college, because I've been in college for a while. Talking about what exactly happened today. My interview started at 12:10. I reached at 12 exact, noon. One of the advices is to dress well. Not super overdressed. I mean, I was in this sweater with a t-shirt inside, or a shirt. You can wear a shirt, some formal pants and some formal shoes. For girls, it's probably like a formal one piece or a black pant or put on a jacket or something. Black is usually like most of the girls today were wearing black. Eat well. I actually ate a lot before going. I cannot think when there's no food in my stomach. I need food, you know. So I ate a couple of tacos before going. Then I reached early, went for the interview. The first thing was a group thing. We were about 7 people, including me. And then we had a bunch of activities to do where you're like given some situations and you're asked to react to them, or how do you think you would be reacting to them with, like, you know, some resident of your house has some issues and you're trying to solve the issues. So basically like some situation case study type of questions, and you're just like talking with your teammates and proposing your solutions and stuff like that, and they just see how you actually like talk during the discussions. So this went on for around 1.5 hours, and after that we were given a 20-minute break. In that 20-minute break, I rushed to the cafeteria and I got some sushi to eat. I really needed like food to eat before I enter my individual interview round, where it was a 40 to 45 minutes interview with specifically like 2 people only. And one of them is called the hall director. They're basically a staff member who's in charge of one of the resident halls on campus. And the second one is an RA. It's a residential assistant who is in your interview, you know. So these 2 people are interviewing you and they ask you questions, out of which some of them I'm going to tell you right now. Alright, so no matter whatever interview you go for, there is a 90% chance that the first question is going to be, tell me something about yourself. Now, the trick behind this question is it's super short and very common, but the way you answer this question is really important. Now, it's important that in this question, you reflect back on your ability to bring like a perspective from your past, from your background, or what experiences have you had in your life which relate to the position which you're applying for. They don't want to know like every single thing, like you played tennis or you did something in high school. How does it relate to the position which you're applying for? Around 1 to 1.5 minutes is a good time to like answer this question, maximum 2 minutes. Don't go like more than 2 minutes. I have a big tendency of talking too much on each question. In this specific interview, I missed 2 questions because I was speaking a lot in the other questions. I don't think it's a big deal. I'm just like I've given so many interviews, but I'm just like a super confident guy. One of the biggest reasons is being a YouTuber. Speaking in front of a camera right now. Wait, I'm gonna take a picture of this. So speaking in front of a camera in an empty room is hard, and over time it has made me super confident to actually go out there and talk to random people. Now this helps me during my interviews, because my interviews are not interviews, they are just conversations, you know, and I'm just super confident while I'm talking to the interviewer, and I treat them as a person and not as a big boss, you know what I mean? So the first question was, tell me something about yourself. Now, one big trick about this question, which I had not heard before, was to put one fun fact about yourself. For me, it's always like being a YouTuber is a fun fact about myself. Interviewers are probably interviewing so many different people. You need to put something in their brain which they remember for a longer period of time. I had one friend who collects currencies, you know, about many different, from many different countries. I have another friend who collects minerals and corals. So that's like a super intriguing fact to tell me something about yourself, even though it's not related to the position. I personally think that it doesn't matter, even if it's not related to the position. The whole purpose is for you to make sure that the interviewer remembers you from your ability or some talent which you have, and not just your name, because they're probably gonna forget your name. But when I tell people like I'm a YouTuber and I've been doing it for 3 years and stuff like that, that sticks to their brain. They don't remember my name, but they probably remember that I'm a YouTuber. Alright, so the next question was, if you had to describe your personality in terms of a board game, what would it be and why? This question is pretty, I've heard it a couple of times earlier too. It's about, you have to think about reflecting your life and your experiences to a board game. A board game like chess or Monopoly or Guess Who or something like that. Whatever board game you want, But I personally feel like if I get this question, the first thing that comes to my mind is chess or Monopoly because I never really played a lot of other board games. So those are very common, they come to people's mind all the time. So try to find another board game which is not super common and try to relate it back to your life experience. For me, it might be Guess Who. If you actually just Google about personality relating to board games, you'll be able to find a bunch of board games and then just remember one of them. So even in the future, whenever you get asked this question, you will just throw that board game at the interviewer. You don't need to really introspect and everything, Keep your answers ready. The reason I'm telling you a bunch of these questions is because I want you to prepare some of the answers, not memorize them, but just prepare them so you're a little bit used to it. The next questions, I'm going to list them and mostly just talk in brief. I won't waste a lot of time. So let's go back to the first one. The first one was, tell me something about yourself. Second one is, if you had to describe your personality in terms of a board game, what would it be and why? The third one would be, what are your strengths? In this, they're asking you to explain your strengths relating to the position which you're applying for. The fourth one is, what experience has had a large impact on your personal development? This is also a very common one. You need to share some experience. For me, that experience was to move to Zambia and getting out of my home country, India, to get out there and see the world, see a different type of life and how it has helped me to grow as a person and my personal development. Now, the fifth one is, why are you interested in becoming an RA? This is also a very common question. People will ask you, why are you interested in this job which you're applying for? You cannot just say, I'm interested in the money. Obviously, money is a secondary factor. The key to success to getting a job is showing them why you are interested in that position and what strengths make you the perfect fit for this position. Now, all these questions that I'm listing has to go back to your strengths. So every single question should be relating to your strengths. So you answer the question, and at the end of the question, at the end of your answer, you need to relate it back to your strengths. Why are you interested in becoming an RA? Okay, now the sixth question is, tell me about a time you have not gotten along with a team member. The important thing about this is you need to work in teams. You need to get out there, be in clubs, organizations, meeting people in your high school, in your college, wherever you are. So you have some teamwork experience, and then that will automatically help you to answer this question. All right, the seventh question is very interesting. Listen to this. If you could be any kitchen utensil, what kitchen utensil would you be and why? This is a very interesting question. I had not heard it before, but for me, I think I would be a wine opener. I am pretty good at opening up people's brains to go out there and achieve the goals which they want. So kind of like a wine opener opens the lid of a wine, and it's or like a champagne, and people are bursting out. So people are nourishing their lives and they're enjoying and achieving their goals. And I'm pretty good at that one click which they need to get out there and achieve their goals. Question number 8, I think it's the 8th one. What do you see as the biggest challenge of a new student coming to TCU? So now after question number 8, they're actually targeting the exact position and the roles which you would be playing. If you realize, the first 7 questions were generally about your personality and your experiences, your past and everything, except one of the questions was, why do you want to become an RA? But then now they are kind of reaching a position where they're asking you questions about some of the abilities and the tricks which you might need during if you are selected as an RA. So they're asking you what is the biggest challenge. So now they're making you to think more. They're making you to think about this position. You're as a student assistant helping some students. Now a student comes to PCU. What do you think is the biggest issue? Or what challenges, homesickness, academic issues, making friends, stuff like that. You can always reflect this back to your experience when you moved to your college and give examples. Giving examples in all the questions helps all the time. The question number 9 is, describe a time when you were faced with multiple responsibilities. How did you manage the situation? In this question, again, they're hitting the fact about the multiple responsibilities which you might have to fulfill when you become an RA in this position. So talk about responsibilities which are kind of related to this position and give them examples. Question number 10 is, how would you engage a student who appears to be struggling with their transition at TCU? Frame your answer. I'm not going to go into details. The next question is, give me an example of a time you worked with someone who is different than you. This doesn't necessarily mean like person from a different country or something. It can always be like person with different abilities, different skill sets, different mindsets. So explain how like working with someone else who is different than you created that resistance between both of you and you were like fighting or something, but then at the end you guys worked together on a project or whatever you guys did. And the last question is, what makes you unique? They want to know, how are you different than all these other people in the interview process, and how can they why would they choose you? Alright, so since we're done with all the questions, I would like to talk to you guys about one specific method which I use. It's called the STAR method: situation, task, action, and result. So it's basically like you're talking about a situation. Every single question you can relate back to a situation in your past. What type of task was it? And then what action did you take, and what was the result of your action? Alright, so I hope that video helped and you got a little bit of perspective about doing a part-time job. I actually have another video about my previous part-time job at Orange Coast College, which I got in my first semester at OCC, and I had been doing that job for about 1.5 years before I moved to Texas. And at the end of this video, I'm gonna put a link to that video, so you can also go check out more facts and figures. Actually, that video has a really interesting question at the end of the video. The last question of my previous job interview was super awesome. So I really encourage you guys to go and check that video out. But I hope that video helped. Thank you so much for watching. You can please give it a thumbs up if you learned something new. Subscribe to my YouTube channel because I make a lot of videos about studying in the US and my experiences here, and just a lot of tips and advices which I would like to share with you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know in the comment section down below, what else do you want to hear about? I don't know. I know a few topics, but let me know what you want to hear about. Thank you.